Sorry, sir.
So good morning, everybody. Good morning, Sri Bagavath. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I think we can maybe start from the place that we left the previous meeting 2 weeks ago. When you spoke, Sri Bagavath, about the first mind and the second mind. First mind being the mind we are born with originally, which is the natural and spontaneous flow of emotions, and the second mind, which will be the intellect, which is constructed gradually during our childhood and adolescence and adulthood, and then it tries to control and interfere with the first mind. So maybe we can start from there, and you can speak a few words about it. And
Okay. In the previous occasion, we have seen the two part of the mind, the first mind or the second mind. The first mind is the emotional part. We have many emotions, many feelings, all come in the first mind, first part of the mind. And the second part is the intellectual part. With the help of the intellectual part, we try to manage the first part, the emotional part. For example, we are happy. All happiness belongs to the first part. And the second part is very well okay with the first part when it is happy. But at the same time, when we feel some distress, sorrow, suffering in the emotional part, the second part is not ready to accept it. It wants to change the first part, the emotional part. So this is the daily routine of our life. The first part comes on its own. The second part always try to capture and handle the first part. Now we are facing all our problem in the same way. If the first part is okay, the second part is also okay. So the second part tries always to set right and keep the first part under the control of the second part, according to the expectations of the second part. Now, is it possible to control the first part? Actually, the first part is the real part. All our emotions, all our feelings, that is the real part. Each and every moment we are having some experience. All our psychological experience are belong to the first part. And the first part is moment by moment new. It cannot be old at any time. Moment by moment new. It may be in the form of some happiness, or it may be in the form of some agony. But it is moment by moment new. It cannot exist more than a fraction of a second. The total life of a fraction of a second is only a fraction of a second alone. The next moment, new emotion alone can come. the new emotion alone can exist. So it is a living moment. So the first part is a living moment. And the second part is only a shadow. The first part is the light. The second part is the shadow. The shadow part is the intellectual part. It always tries to capture and control the first part. So here, what is the remedy to set right all our problem? So the second part alone has to understand. The first part need not understand anything. It is natural. No understanding will help with later to the first part. The first part is the natural part. It moment by moment new. It cannot be old at any time. It does not have any memory at all. All memory belongs to the second part. The second part, with the help of the memory, it tries to control the first part. So the second part has to understand with the help of the memory or with the help of its intellectual capacity. It has to understand that it has no work with related to the first part. When it gives total freedom to the first part, actually, whether it is giving freedom to the first part or not, the first part is always in free movement, always in freedom, always in liberation. It does not require, it does not need any permission from the second part. Even without the permission of the second part, the first part is always freely functioning. It does not need any permission from the second part. But the second part alone is in problem, is it in struggle with the first part. So the second part has to understand that it has no work with related to the first part. So if the second part understand that it has no work related to the first part, then what happens? So if the second part understand like this, and thus if the understanding helps, because so the second part always function with some understanding, with some guidance of its intellect, then only it will act. So here it understand it has no work with related to the first part. So if the understanding is real, then it has to accept the first part. So the acceptance of the first part will happen if the second part understand correctly that it has no work with related to the first part. So here, one other thing we have to understand, each and every moment we feel I am. We feel the I consciousness. Each and every moment we feel I am existing. So what is the actual abode? What is the residence of the I consciousness? What is the actual place for the I consciousness, the I am. Whether the I am is coming in the first part, or it is whether it is coming from the second part. That we have to consider, and we have to proceed further. And till then, we can discuss up to the point with related to the first part and second part. What is the status of the first part? What is the responsibility of the second part? What is the duty of the second part? All these things we have to consider. And afterwards, we can come to the question, who am I? Whether it is coming from the first part or from the second part. We have to discuss about it later. Primarily, we have to clarify what is the actual status of the first part and what is the actual status of the second part. That we have to take first. Now we proceed further in question and answer form or in clarification form.
Okay.
Lanier, we can have some question with related to the first part of these.
Okay, so I'll speak in Hebrew just to summarize and welcome the people. אז שרי בגבת דיבר על החלק הראשון ועל החלק השני של הנפש שלנו. החלק הראשון שהוא החלק הספונטני הטבעי של הרגשות, תחושות, שזורם גם מה שלא יהיה, גם בלי לקבל רשות מהחלק השני. והחלק השני, שהוא האינטלקט שאנחנו מפתחים עם השני, והוא מתערב ורוצה לשלוט בחלק הראשון, לרוב ללא הצלחה, והוא בעצם הגורם המרכזי שלנו. אז עכשיו שרי בגבת פותח את הדיון לשאלות ותשובות, ומי שרוצה לשאול שיפתח את המיקרופון שלו וידבר.
Yeah, I have hello, Sri Bagavath.
Okay.
I have a question. This understanding of the second part, is it something that happens once? Or it needs to be understood, forgotten, understood, deepening over time?
Babla என்ன சொல்றாங்க?
Can you repeat the question once again?
Yeah. Yes. You talked about understanding on the second part, right? So the second part needs to understand. It doesn't need to interfere. That's the only thing that needs to happen. The question is this understanding something that happens once and that's it? Then you understand it forever, or you understand it, then you lose it, then you understand it again, and you keep remembering this understanding over time to the point that it becomes a continuous understanding. Was it clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the understanding, so if it is not the correct understanding, you have to inquire again and again. So if we after proper inquiry, if you come to the conclusion like this, come to the understanding like this, all the understanding will be always with you. You need not again and again inquire about that. But at the same time, there may be a chance, because even though we are having some habit of old pattern. So the old pattern may function. In the old pattern, we have we have something that, as if without the understanding, we will have the temperament to fight with the first part. So naturally, the understanding may be somewhat suspended for a time, sometime. But at the same time, when you remind the pain of the fighting, the pain of the struggle, will remind you that you are mistakenly fighting with yourself. So it will be, the understanding will be automatically renewed. You need not again and again inquire from the beginning to the end. For example, you are living in a rented house for 10 years or more, and you go to your office daily from the rented house to the office and return to your rented house. But after 10 years, you shifted the rented house to you take new house, and you one day, while returning from your office, you unconsciously go to the olden house, because you have the habit for 10 years of returning to the old house. So in this way, even after shifting your you unconsciously go to the old house. So, but when you reach the old house, the very moment you will remind that you are mistakenly coming to the old house. So the next moment you will automatically go to the right place. So in this way, our habit pattern may sometimes disturb our understanding, but it will. But you need not worry about that. Whenever you find that you are unconsciously doing the mistaken work, you will return to your natural position.
Thank you.
Okay.
אם אפשר הסבר על השאלה והתשובה.
Rita wants a short translation for the answer and the question. So I'll speak in Hebrew for just 1 minute.
תודה.
ריטה, דני שאל, האם ההבנה היא אחת ולתמיד, אם הבנתי את זה, אז זהו, זה נשאר איתי לתמיד, או שההבנה מעמיקה עם הזמן, ולאט לאט יש העמקה לתוך ההבנה הזאת. שבגבת אומר שברגע שהבנת, זה יסתיים. אוקיי? אם הבנת נכונה, זה יסתיים. אלא שיש גם דפוסי חשיבה שמלווים אותנו, שהם דפוסי חשיבה של מלחמה בעולם הפנימי. אבל הוא אומר שאין מה לדאוג, כי ברגע שאתה נלחם עם עצמך, הכאב של המאבק יעיר אותך, ולא תהיה לך בעיה יותר. בסדר? כי ברגע שאתה נלחם עם עצמך נוצר כאב מהמאבק הזה. וזה כבר כשלעצמו מעיר אותך מחדש, ומחזיר אותך להבנה הנכונה. בסדר איתה?
תודה, תודה, כן.
Okay, so if anybody else have the question. Shri Bagavath, I have something to ask.
If no other clarification needed.
ஐயா அவர் லைனில் கேட்கணும்னு சொல்றாரு.
Linear?
Yeah, I have a question. If it's
You have a question. Yeah, yes, you can ask.
so, it is partly related to the other topic that you wanted to discuss after the regarding the IM, regarding the
Regarding the IAM, shall we proceed that?
I think it is touching that subject, so maybe we can just. It's something that I've been noticing, and I wanted to ask you about that. Because this IM, this presence of IM, it's we are not always aware of it. It comes you know, you are floating with your thoughts and emotion, and then comes the sense of I am, the sense that I am existing, and then there's another flow of thoughts and emotions, and then it comes again. What I've noticed that when it comes up, then you have a choice, either to try to control with this sense of I am what is happening, or this sense of I am, because of the understanding, is it doesn't assume authority over the emotions and the feelings. So I was wondering if this may be called the sense of the ego, because when the sense of I am comes up, then it seems that it has a choice, either to try to control what is happening inside, or it can relinquish its authority on the inner world. I hope it is clear. I don't.
So here, the first part of our brain, of our mind, is the emotion. The I consciousness is also comes in the first part. So we feel I am. So all the first part is moment by moment new. There cannot be any old. So the I consciousness is also moment by moment new. It may be related to some emotion, some feeling, but anyhow, for example, we have some happiness or sorrow or fear, whatever may be. Even though in that thing also, the I consciousness is also available there. So it is a part and parcel of the total thing. Within the total thing, I consciousness is also there. The emotional part, the feeling, the joy or happiness or sorrow or fear, whatever may be, everything is part of the experience. So the experience is the real thing. We feel the existence. So what we feel the existence of everything. So that is the first part. So in that first part, the I consciousness is also there. But at the same time, in the second part also, we feel some responsibility to do something. So each and every moment, so once even though the first part is moment by moment new, even when the second part comes, the first part is also there. So the first part will never disappear. It continues. In the first, as the first part continues, the second part assumes that the I consciousness belongs to the second part. So it takes a role to deal with anything, to control anything, to set right anything. So in this way, the second part assumes the first part as the part of the second part. So that is the problem continues. So actually, it has to understand actually the first part will not contain anything. The first part contains the first part alone, and moment by moment it comes and goes afresh. There is nothing old. So the second part takes the role to deal with anything. So the second part has to understand that it has no work. So the second part understands that it has no work. What is the meaning of that is that we have accept the happening, accept all our experience as it is. And we have to accept the first part as the natural part. So when it is natural, it moment by moment new. So when the second part takes the role like this, we think the second part takes the role of the I consciousness, and it wants to have a good thing. It wants to have that it should not have any bad thing. So it always tries to retain some good emotion, good experience with it. So if the understanding is correctly, if it comes to a conclusion that if nothing is needed, then what is happening, what all happening is correct and good. So when anything is good, we need not correct anything. If we think it is bad, then only we need some correction. So if we understand that we have no work with related to the first part, that what is the meaning of that is that what all comes, what all we experience is only correct and perfect. So then only we don't have any work upon that. When we feel when we feel some defect upon the happening, we try to regulate it. So that is the reason all the spiritual world give the name as spirit or the Atma or soul. So that means the energy, the existence, the real thing, the reality. So when something is real, when something is spiritual, when something is soul, when something is God itself, so it does not need any correction. So if we accept ourselves, the I consciousness, as the spirit, as the soul, or the God himself, then we don't want any correction, when we don't want any rectification. So when we accept ourselves as like this, we are free. We ourselves free, the I consciousness free. If we feel some defect, we try to correct it. So everything is good, everything is right, everything is godly, everything is spiritual, everything is divine, everything is Atma, everything is soul. That is I am. If we take yourself to be the ultimate thing, if we take ourselves is the totality, if we take ourselves to be the thing without any defect, if we take ourselves to be the natural thing, then we need not try to correct ourselves. So if we do not correct ourselves, what happens is that the natural flow alone will be there. The struggle will not be there. So, but if we expect the flow, it is also a demand. So actually, sometimes the flow will not be there. Sometimes the distress may be there. Sometimes the agony may be there. So it may be according to our, because we are doing something in the world, we are doing something in the circumstances. So according to the circumstances, according to our duty, according to the responsibility of the physical world, the natural reaction will be there. So all natural reaction, we may, if we analyze whether it is right or not, we may come to a conclusion that it is not right. So that is why in the spiritual world it is, we have to ourselves, even though it may look wrong, it may be look somewhat some defective, we have to accept as a total thing. We have to accept as a whole thing. We should not accept it as a defective one. We have to accept as a total thing. So then only the problem will be solved. Otherwise, the defect alone will be there, the struggle alone will be there. So the main thing is that we have to accept ourselves wholeheartedly. We have to accept ourselves as a natural thing, not the natural happening. Then only everything will be all right.
Yeah. Maybe part of the confusion is that we identify ourselves with the second part.
Yeah.
Think we are the second, and then we think the first part is something. It's not. It's maybe our character, but it's not ourself actually. And the real I am is the second part, the one that tries to control.
Tries to control. Then the tries to control the person who is trying to control, but the real personality, the real feeling of I am is belongs to, even though it belongs to the first part, that second part assumes to be the second part. So that is the problem.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I also think it's very confusing. In some traditions, they would say the I am is different than I am something. I am happy, I am sad, I am. They make some difference, and then they say focus only on the I am, because if you focus on the I am sense feeling, then the attribute loses his grip, right? The importance. Then it confuses you, because we are our mind work. Our mind is an experience, right? And we take ourselves as we experience ourselves, whatever. And they say enlightenment is not an experience, right? They say so, but it's hard for the mind to accept it, because all the mind knows is I am something. So in some traditions, they would say split the two, I am, and put the something aside, just focus on the I am. But you don't say that, right, Sri Bagavath? You say something different. You don't take it to this kind of practice. But you say the second part is taking over the first part. Can you please say something about, clarify it more?
But the first part is the real part, but it moment by moment new. It cannot be old. So each and every moment, all our experience from the first part disappears itself. So when we recognize something, that is already over. So we have no work which is already over. We have, for the explanation sake, as if something first part and second part, but actually the second part alone takes all the trouble to do anything. The first part does not have any work. does not have any work to rectify itself. So it comes and goes naturally. And the second part does not have any work. Something is over, something is already finished. So so anyhow, we have to come to the conclusion through some logical means or some inquiry. We have to, the second part alone has to understand, but the understanding always related to the second part. So the second part has to come to a conclusion like this. Then only it will give it will not disturb the first part. Actually, the first part is beyond disturbance, even though it is functioning. We have to understand like this. So if we understand properly, the understanding will help.
So maybe, as you said, those two parts, they mix. The first part and the second part. The first part has a feeling, right?
Now, first part is a feeling.
Yes. But the feeling is not part of the, have some part in the second part? Am I clear?
But actually, the real part alone is the first part alone is the real part. It is alone functioning. It moment by moment, when the first part is not coming and goes away, and the second part afterwards, the first part again coming, that is not the way. The first part alone is existing related to the first part. But in the language of the first part alone is existing. There is no second part. But at the same time, in the language of the second part alone is existing. So that is the problem. So we have to dismiss something. Then only the real thing will have full blossoming. So we cannot dismiss the first part. We can dismiss the second part. Mm-hmm. So that is the actuality. For this, to dismissing the second part has to understand it has no business. If it has business only to the external world, the external world, the first will not have any role. Some emotion may come, some emotion may be helpful to the first part, the external world, but at the same time, the planning and execution is 75% related to the second part of our brain alone, second part of our mind alone. So with the help of the second part alone, we have to attend to all the duties, all the work of the world. But at the same time, with related to the first part, the second part does not have any duty, not even a single %.
רציתי לשאול משהו בבקשה, אבל אי אפשר לשלוט על החלק הראשון בלי החלק השני, אולי הוא ענה על זה, אבל לא הבנתי, כי צריך את החלק השני על מנת לשלוט על החלק הראשון.
Yes, Rita is asking something. I will translate the question. She said, do we need the second part in order to control the first part?
So the second part, you need not have any work related to the first part. Actually, the first part is existing moment by moment new. So the second part has no work related to the first part. The second part is related only to has the work to the external world alone. With related to the first part, the second part does not have any work. So it has to understand that I have no work with related to the first part. So to that extent alone, it has some work, that I don't have any work with related to the first part.
אם אפשר לתרגם, אני אשמח, תודה.
כן, שרי בגבת אומר שהחלק השני, החלק של האינטלקט, החלק שחושב באופן רצוני, אין לו שום תפקיד לגבי העולם הפנימי, לגבי החלק הראשון. החלק הראשון, החלק של הרגשות, של התחושות, הוא מתנהל ואמור להתנהל באופן ספונטני וחופשי. והחלק השני של האינטלקט, הוא פשוט לא צריך להפריע לו. אין לו תפקיד בעולם הפנימי, כל התפקידים שלו, שבגבת אומר 75% מהתפקוד בעולם החיצוני הוא של החלק של המחשבה, חלק של המחשבה הרצונית, של התכנון והביצוע, אוקיי? אז בעולם הפנימי לא צריך להתערב בכלל. כל התשומת לב.
כן, thank you, תודה.
בבקשה. Somebody else wants to ask? Sometimes, Sri Bagavath, sometimes it feels too easy. It feels like it cannot be.
Too easy to control yourself.
How can it be that this is all the saints were speaking about? It's too easy to be the big enlightenment, the big understanding, the big liberation. It feels like it's too easy. Also, although it feels correct and logical, and you have the inner feedback of flowing and but you say to yourself, is it that easy? Maybe it's like the story that you told from Yoga Vasishta about the person that was told that he want to about a stone, a precious stone that he has to look for, and he was told that he has to look for many years in order to find this special stone. And he went to the mountain and started looking and found it only after 1 hour. But he thought this cannot be the true stone because it takes many years. And he throws it away and keeps on searching for years.
But for the beginners, all good. Everything is good. We have to work. We have to search. We have to strive hard. Everything is good. But after coming to the conclusion like this, then you need not have any work like this. So all searching is not necessary, because here we have to accept ourselves. We have to accept ourselves wholeheartedly. The total acceptance of ourselves is the way. So we have to move freely. If you have any future, so if you select some good future for ourselves psychologically, then only the struggle will start. So psychologically, there is no future. Present alone is there. What is experiencing, what is feeling. We cannot feel the future. We can feel only the present. So present alone is ever present, ever moving. So we have to move along with the present alone. We should not invent a future. So inventing the future, inventing a psychological future alone is the problem. So if you do not invent any psychological future, we move along with ourselves, we travel along with ourselves, we accept ourselves wholeheartedly. So so moment by moment new, we cannot, even though we are going along with ourselves, that does not mean we are stuck up with something. So it is ever new, it is ever moving, ever flowing. So everything it will look after itself. We need not look after anything. So, yeah, but at the same time, physically we have to do. The physical work we should not avoid. We have to take the physical work in our hand. We have to execute the physical work more sincerely, wholeheartedly. So that is different. But psychologically, if we select a future, if you select a better thing for ourselves, that's the problem. So we have to submit with ourselves. That is why in all religion, the surrender to God is given more importance. So here, surrendering to God means accepting ourselves wholeheartedly. So there is no difference between surrender to God and accepting ourselves wholeheartedly. So if we accept ourselves wholeheartedly, we move freely.
Yes. Yes.
But what this second mind wants, the second part of the mind wants, it always after a better experience. It's inherent, isn't it?
Okay.
It is focused on the experience and how to make it better. Then you find yourself struggling. The second part is always struggles for a psychological future. So
the second part has to understand. So everything is related to the understanding. If you understand correctly, the understanding will work. We need not execute the understanding. The very understanding will operate. We need not execute our understanding.
and when it operates, then what? Then does it have?
So understanding means I have no work. So if you understand that you have some work, you have to execute, you have to fight. But you have to, if you understand that we have no work, then what work is left? No work
Right.
is left.
Then you can understand there is no work, but still the mind can struggle and right? Maybe in some rare cases like mine, I don't know. I'm a wet wood.
So that means we expect some good future, psychological future.
Right. So how can you get rid of this? Because this is seems like it's the inherent in the second part, or what? Like, does the second part, when he understands that he cannot control the first part, does it stops this craving for a better psychological situation?
So we have to accept we have to understand the stupidity of the functioning of our mind. So that is the main thing.
Yeah.
So it may be functioning like this, but we have to understand it. It is functioning like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So suffer and be happy. Yeah.
כן, מישהו עוד רוצה לשאול משהו?
Yeah, I had one question. How this understanding goes into your sleep state?
Unable to follow.
So when you're awake, I understand what you're saying. how does it go into sleep state? How it can this understanding goes into sleep state?
பாபுலால் என்ன சொல்றாங்க? பாபுலால் மியூட் ஆயிருக்கீங்க.
ஐயா, இந்த தூக்கத்துல இந்த புரிதல் எப்படி ஒர்க் பண்ணும் அப்படின்னு கேக்குறாங்க.
தூக்கத்துல
ஆமா, அதாவது இப்போ விழிச்சிட்டு இருக்கேன், அந்த புரிதல் தெரியுது.
சரி,
தூக்கத்துல இந்த புரிதல் எப்படி இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு கேட்கலாம்.
தூக்கத்துல வந்து அது இப்ப நமக்கு வந்து இது எல்லாமே வந்து all our understanding is related to our conscious mind. So if you sleep means we go to unconscious level. In the unconscious level, anything may happen. We need not worry about the unconscious level. Consciously, if you okay, everything is okay. We need not worry about the unconscious level. We need not worry about the sleeping or dreaming. Anything, it may happen on its own. We need not correct our dream. We need not correct our sleep. Let it continue on its own.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sri Bagavath?
Oh.
Can you say something about the practice of I am and how is it different from what we are speaking about of not controlling the first part?
So here, practicing, all practice is only for the beginners. If you still think you are the beginner, you can practice. You can practice. You can concentrate upon the eye consciousness, and you can keep watching the eye consciousness forever. So everything is good for the beginners. Nothing is bad. So afterwards, you need not you always carry over the practice. For the beginners alone, practice is good and necessary. But after you matured enough, you need not practice anything. You give up everything. You give up the psychological future. Giving up psychological future, then no practice is needed. So for the external work, you can do work, you can plan anything, you can have some training upon the physical work. So for example, if you want to operate a computer, you have some work, you have to some training. For everything is needed. But psychologically, if you understand correctly, the understanding will operate, it will take the role of everything. You need not to, it does not need any practice. The understanding alone will enough. The understanding means we have to give up anything without any work. So put down all our work.
Somebody is speaking?
Somebody wants to ask something?
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a way to know whether you understand correctly or not?
So you yourself will know. If you do not fight with yourself, that's the sign of your understanding. If you still fighting with yourself, if you try to separate yourself psychologically, that means you have not done, that means we have not understood properly. So if you understand properly, we will not try to separate ourselves. We will accept ourselves. Then the second part will always go along with the first part. It will never take the role of a separate role. It will easily mingle and go along with it will travel along with the first part. If the second part has to, does not have any separate work for itself, it has to go along with the first part. There should not be any difference between the first part and the second part with related to the psychological world. But in the in this physical world alone, the second part must have a separate role. Then only the function will be proper in the external world. But in the psychological world, there should not be any difference between the first part and the second part. It must be total. The first part and second part must be total with related to the emotions. It has to travel along with the first part. The second part should not expect the first part to travel along with the second part. The second part alone has to travel along the first part.
Would it be correct also to shift that perspective to the physical body in case of illness or some disease in the body? Is it proper to treat the body in the same perspective that there's no need for interference?
So here we have to take the body as a physical thing. So we have to treat. We have to treat properly. We have to work it for properly. For example, if you have some appetite, you have to eat your food. It will not be satisfied naturally. You should not expect everything will be all right naturally. We have to do something. We have to take food. We have to work for the good. Everything we have to do. We have to deal with the help of the second part. Body is related to the second part. So the first part alone is concerned, we have to allow the first part alone has to function, and the second part has to join with the first part and move along with the first part. So we have to take ourselves to the first part with related to the psychological aspect. There should not be any classification with related to the first part with the psychological world. The second part, the physical world alone is concerned, the first part and second part we have to take, and the second part has some role. And with related to the psychological world, there should not be any division between the first part and second part. We have to take everything as the first part.
Aya, in the total mind, what will be the percentage of first part to the second part? Is it 50-50?
So in the psychological world is concerned, the second part has no role. The first part alone has to be taken the 100% role, and the second part has to submit totally. There should not be any fraction of part related to the second part within the psychological matter. So in the psychological world is concerned, 100% first part. Second part does not have any part, even a least percentage is not having.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
கேள்வி இல்லைன்னா அவங்களுக்கு முடிக்க சொல்லலாமாயா?
அப்படி வேணா கேளுங்க, அவர்கிட்ட என்கிட்ட கேளுங்க.
நான் 1 hour ஆச்சு. Yeah, so Lenin, if there is no question, if there is a question, then yes, we can continue. Otherwise, we can.
Okay. אז אם יש מישהו שרוצה לשאול שאלה, הזדמנות אחרונה, כמו שקוראים בשדה התעופה, last call for a question.
תניר, מה שאלת בבקשה על הבריאות?
Rita is asking what I asked about regarding the body. So, אני שאלתי את שרי בגבת, האם ניתן להתייחס לגוף הפיזי, כמו שאנחנו מתייחסים לנפש. זאת אומרת שפשוט לתת לה, במקרה של מחלה, פשוט לתת לגוף להסתדר לבד, ולא להתערב. שרי בגבת ענה שהגוף הוא שייך לחלק החיצוני, ולכן אנחנו צריכים כן לפעול וכן לטפל בו כשיש איזושהי בעיה. So I just explained your answer because I asked about can we leave the body as like we are letting the inner world sort out itself, not interfering. Can we leave the body to not interfere with in case of a disease or illness? But you said that the body is external, so we have to treat it as part of the external world, and we have to treat it. So we cannot deal with it the same way that we deal with the inner world.
אוקיי.
זה יפה, כי פה בדיוק נכנסת הרפואה המשלימה יחד עם הקונבנציונלי, שצריך תמיד לשלב את הרפואה המשלימה יחד עם הרפואה הקונבנציונלית. תודה.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
אוקיי.
So if nobody has another question, so we can finish here. And if Sri Bagavath wants, we can meet next week, the same hour, if it's okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for your wise words. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone who attended. Thank you very much.
Thank you.